do this. We are going live. I believe we're live now. We've never done this.
I'll leave it to you.
Thanks for tuning in. Premiered 6 seconds ago.
Sweet.
Where is the live?
Yeah, we're here.
I guess we're here. We got a comment back.
Welcome everyone. Mark's figuring this out.
It is. You can hear it over on yours.
Yeah, we're good. We're ready to go. So
you
maybe
should
I should
mute
close
yours.
the door.
Yeah. Awesome. Good to see everyone. We got director Nolan here from Nolan Wilson. Say hi, Nolan. There you are. You're calling in from Washington, hey?
Glad you guys came and tuned in.
Yeah, awesome. Nolan, what a fun piece. I remember you had actually won the AOD pitching contest. So for those of you not familiar, AOD, we're a big community of documentary filmmakers from around the world, and we have a course and an academy at the core of it. And we did a pitching contest, and Nolan actually won it out of about 100 people with his pitch because he sent us a teaser in that in the hardware store.
Yeah.
And we really enjoyed just seeing how immersed he was with those characters. So Nolan, I guess 2 questions. One, how did you meet everyone, and how did you get such like intimate up close footage? We'll start there with this film. Like that was what we really loved about it, was how intimate and how it felt like the skateboarders really enjoyed being on camera. How did you build that rapport?
Yeah, thank you. So that group of people, that is my community of people. Those are my friends. Those are some of my closest friends. I've been skating with them for 15 years, 12 years, something like that. So it was pretty natural for me to communicate with them and get them to feel relaxed because, for one, they're skaters, so they're used to being on camera if you're filming and stuff.
Yeah.
But bringing in this element of like kind of narrative and storytelling to it rather than just montage skate video was like the harder part. But since I was already in the community and it wasn't a random outsider, it made it a lot easier for them to communicate and tell their side of things and feel comfortable, especially talking on camera, which they don't like doing.
Nolan, at what point did you decide you wanted to make a documentary? Because you had access, you were obviously doing some stuff in film and video, but at what point did you realize there was a story, and how did you hone in on what the actual story would be with this transition of the one skate park to the other? Kind of walk us through kind of how you knew now is the time to tell the story.
Well, me and my buddy Jack, we had been documenting the build and like all the production of the first DIY that they built, which was the pit. And then when they started making 11th Street and they kind of started like really ramping things up every single weekend there, it really showed like the community come together, because a lot of those people, they weren't super close before those, or when they started building those parks. So when I saw the community get tighter from that, and then also seeing the response that they would get from the city, it was kind of, okay, there is something there. I got to find it. I got to tune it and make it so that it's got a good story for people to watch. But yeah, once we started getting contact from the city, like we were, when we got contact, we're like, okay, there's something good or bad could come from this. So I think this is a good point to start actually putting that footage together and making it into like an actual story.
That's always kind of what we're teaching in AOD, is like once you can find some conflict, and then especially if you can be present to film that conflict either resolving or getting worse, that's going to be a good foundational building block for a good documentary, which is exactly what, when you pitched this to us, you're like, here's the challenge and here's what these skateboarders are trying to do, is build this skate park while trying to convince the city, but almost like do it rogue in a way without upsetting anyone. And getting to see people in unique conflict and challenge like that's going to make for a good film. And I think that's why you're able, like, to keep people's attention in a 25-minute film is not easy, and you definitely did this on this.
Yeah.
Nolan, before I got another question, but before we get to question, anybody joining us, if you guys have questions for Nolan, make sure you put it in the chat, and he can answer those as well. Nolan, something I wanted to ask is, what were you telling the characters you were making? when you say a documentary, like they obviously opened up to you because they knew you, but kind of what was the conversation amongst everybody? Like what were you documenting, and I guess why did they all seem pretty enthusiastic? How did you get them on board to open up?
Well, the thing about skaters, so like if you're talking any sport, like what? Okay, how about this? What other sport do you know or activity do you know that takes a space, turns it into a functional facility for
Yeah.
free, and then offers it to the public for free with no like we need you to do this, you need to pay money to do this. It's just out in the public. There, like as far as I know, there aren't any other communities that really do that.
Right.
So when we talked about doing the dog of like with that type of mindset, of course they're like, okay, we just want more people to know about this. We want more people to see this place, come to this place. Like we've had people come from all over the country to skate the skate park because they know that it's a thing. And so making this dock and getting the word out that this is here and this is usable and it's functional it was a no-brainer. So they didn't have any I mean, besides the fact that it is a rogue build, it's a renegade thing. So there is a possibility that some people might not like it because it was built as a renegade build. But as far as we know, everybody's pretty cool with it. Even the city, like they've kind of said some weird things, but most of it is just they're kind of turning up. So.
Well, since you kind of went there, why don't you just tell us quickly? I mean, we got a lot more questions, but what is the city's reaction? Kind of what's happened since the film, since we saw the end card there? Like, is the park is still in existence? What are the skaters looking for new territory? Give us a quick update now in terms of what's going on.
Yeah, the park is still there. There was a little bit of a hiatus for a little bit on what they wanted to build and what they wanted to do next, but in the last like actually few weeks they just started on another new section of the park. So and then in addition to that, there is, if you saw at the end of the dock, there is another skate park that they've started on a building foundation, like kind of covered around a bunch of trees. So everybody's still working forward and making more skate parks because we don't have a good one, so we kind of need it. And the city, we got nothing from them. They haven't said anything yet. So
well, that's good.
So we'll see. Something good, something bad might happen. Maybe we'll have to make a part 2.
Yeah, it's true actually.
There's some great questions coming in, but if we could do some rapid fire, I know people always like to kind of know the technical elements behind this. First off, how many people were shooting this? Like, what did your crew look like? Was it you, camera, sound? Like, who was on set most days? What did that look like?
So most days it was me and my co-director Jack. In addition to that, every once in a while, my cousin, he's a sound guy. He's a person that mixed. He came in for a handful of the interviews to help record with that. He also mixed all the sound, and then I mean, there was a couple like archival photos that you guys saw in there. That was Jack's wife's photos, so she took photos along with the production park, and they just fit perfectly, so we put them in there. And then there's a handful of iPhone photos.
2 to 3 then, hey, most days.
Yeah, it was 2, 3, or 1.
Yeah. We love that. That's kind of the AOD way. We often, most people are shooting docs like that, just like very, very small crew.
And how long did you film for? What was kind of roughly when did you start? Roughly when did you finish? How long was that film documented over?
I mean, technically, if we're talking the start of the pit DIY, that was I think 2017 or 2018.
Wow.
And so that's when they just gathered footage and they'd make little edits and stuff, but
Gotcha.
or we'd make little edits and stuff. And then 11th Street DIY started in 2020 during the pandemic. Nobody had anything to do, so they just started building the skate park. But yeah, so 2020. So I guess in theory it might be like 4 or 5 years of footage. Yeah,
Gotcha.
About 4 terabytes.
Wow. Okay. So some questions from the audience coming in. Did you guys have any problems with police during construction? And yeah, start there. I guess any issues?
Getting permission to film or with the police or anything like that?
Almost. We almost had problems, but Surprisingly, which this is unheard of in the skating culture, is cops were on board with what we were doing.
Cool.
A handful would drive, like one police officer drove by at one point and saw them mixing concrete, and they thought that they were doing something to protest the prison that's down the street a little bit, and so they thought that there was, because there's a protest going on there, so
Yeah.
they thought that they were doing something malicious, but then they saw, oh, you guys are building a skate park. Okay. Anyway, and just kept going. Cops would drive by, they'd hands up, say hi or whatever. I think there was a couple people that said like, hey, this isn't gonna last. It's like, well, that's DIYs. They don't last. It's just a part of it. I mean, there's the occasional like burnside, but usually they eventually do get torn out, which is a sad reality. But yeah, mostly nobody really cared. The city had a contact at one point, and they just kind of went MIA after a while. So so we're just like, okay, well, we'll just keep going. And
Nolan,
Yeah.
so a question I think a lot of filmmakers have is kind of knowing how much do you know beforehand what you're making versus just following something and seeing where it goes. Where did this fall for you? I mean, did you know you were making a doc until, this park was finished, or were you, because they were community and your friends, like were you following along, and just kind of how much, I guess, how much were you kind of directing and navigating yourself versus letting the characters' lives unfold and following them?
Well, we'd always been documenting the park as it was being built, just because that's, it's like I can either build, or I can either help build, or I can help document, and I'm better at documenting. So we'd always did that. And then after a year, I think me and Jack were talking, and we're like, let's make a doc. Let's make a doc about this. Let's find the story, and let's do this. And while we were doing that, that's when I saw you guys had the pitch contest, and I was like, "Oh, dude, Jack, we gotta get on this now, and let's get a part of this. Let's do a pitch for this, because this could make it, this could make it blow up." So we hammered down and got that done. And a lot of it, I think, when it was like when we started seeing conflict, when we started seeing a problem arising that the city they knew about it, they found out. So that's when we were like, okay, let's tell the story.
What you kind of answered it there, but was there a certain moment that motivated you to tell the story, or even keep going? 5 years of footage is a long time. Like, maybe there's even some advice you have when people are in the midst of a film, because we know this took you a while. From when we first gave you the pitch grant to when this was delivered, that was almost 2 years, I think.
It was, and I was pretty ambitious about it. I was like, I'll get this done in like 6 months, and that's it. Just wasn't
never that easy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was. I think I was at a place in my life where I was ready to take on a project like this, and so was Jack. So we, like it was like the time. It was like the perfect storm. It fit right. It fit right then. The park was at a place where it was skatable. It was a fully skatable park, and there was already problems happening. So I think that was the main motivator. Like I said, those are some of my closest friends, and I wanted to tell their story and have them have their time to shine for building the park. So
for sure.
Nolan, what did you learn from this, from a filmmaking standpoint? Like, what would you do differently? Setting up shoots, camera gears, or editing process. Are there one or two things that really stuck out to you, thinking next time I will definitely do this or do not do this? What comes to mind when you think about kind of the whole process of putting this together?
One thing is just one step at a time. Don't get ahead of yourself, because I definitely got ahead of myself, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna plan out 3 months and hammer it all down, but not everybody is as reliable as perfect attendance, so it just doesn't work out that way, and things get pushed back. So one thing is taking it one step at a time, and then also not rushing it, because if we would have rushed it and we did finish it as quick as we thought, then we would have missed out the whole demolish of the pit.
Wow.
And so because that happened later, way later, after we decided we were going to do this. Like, we almost had a deadline, and then Jack was like, okay, contractors are about to tear out the pit. We we can't premiere this yet. We need to have that in there." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're definitely right." So
Yeah. So you mentioned that, that the pit came later. It sounds like patience is a big part of the filmmaking process.
yeah.
And sometimes that's just filming a lot of stuff happening. One question that's always interesting is this 25-minute film, but how much footage did you actually have to work with to get that to a 25-minute film?
Oh God. Well, so for context, we most of it was filmed in 4K, and we gathered about like 3.75 terabytes of footage.
That's actually
And
not too bad.
yeah, I mean, we were pretty selective, and there's a handful of things that probably could have got rid of, but a lot of the main footage was 4K. I mean, we output it in 1080, but we just wanted more playroom. But I couldn't tell you how much actual like time frame of footage. It's probably days. I mean, especially with filming skating, if you're trying to film like a lot of those tricks like that you saw in the film, those don't happen first try. They don't happen third try. They happen 50th try. So you've got 60p 4K footage just pumping into the camera. Your camera's just spinning on fans. But yeah, there was a lot of there was a lot of footage, and I only have this one. Here's the dock right here. I only have this one hard drive to work off of 4 terabytes. So when we started getting close to it, I was getting worried. But yeah.
A bunch of questions that I want to get to in the chat, Nolan. Have people who are doing drugs in the area come back since the park has been built?
Yeah, I mean, so there's something funny about it. So there was a lot of like trailers and RVs and stuff, but the city, like we had no idea this was happening, but like around like the parking area, like on the outside of the park, just outside, like just before the street, is where they used to all park and camp out. The city put giant like cinder blocks, like giant parking blocks all the way around it, everywhere except for the designated parking lot for the. So the city kind of eliminated a lot of that. There was some people that would park there for a while, but it was like I wouldn't say we kicked them out. It was more of we just didn't want trash, and we didn't want any bad stuff going on around there because kids go there,
Yeah,
and we go there and we don't really want to see like a lot of that negativity. So a lot of people, we'd be skating, shoveling concrete at 8 a.m, and like homeless people or just people living down there, they would come out and talk to us too, and just like, hey, we want to, like, we're keeping this place clean too. So we're like, okay, as long, I mean, we're not like, we don't own the place, so we can't like kick you out. But it's like, it is nice that there was a mutual respect going on. For the most part, there was some bad stuff that would go on. That big homeless camp that was like a block, like one street down, that one was on private property, like in a business parking area. So that place has since been cleared out and fenced off. But for the most part, it's been pretty bare. Like occasionally you'll see a car there that is falling apart, but most of it's pretty relaxed there.
Question coming in, kind of two of the same one, but you have a lot of characters in the film. We hear from a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
How did you pick Aaron? Why, Aaron kind of got a little more attention than the others. What was the decision behind that? Was that something you kind of knew early on, or what made you pick him over some of the others?
We definitely knew early on that it had to be Aaron. Aaron is he wasn't a professional skater, but he was an amateur skater, which is one step before for he rode for blind skateboards and vans back in like the 2000s and 90s and stuff. He is a name, like in the skating community. If you drop his name, people know who that is. And he lives in our city, and he's a good friend of mine, and he also is has one of the best like voices for this type of thing, and also the motivation to do the film and be a part of it was that was like it was he hit the most check marks pretty much, and he's just a really good voice and really passionate about everything. And he also I'm not gonna say he was the biggest contributor to the park, but he was definitely up there with the main.
He was out there shoveling concrete and going to the you can see from the film that he was passionate about it.
Yeah, that first year they were there every single day working on the park in some capacity, whether it's concrete or they're fixing little spots, little holes in the ground. The ground was really, really bad. Like you couldn't actually roll on it when they first started. But after just mixing on the ground and working and making it smooth, it became not smooth, but less rough.
Usable.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's just such an important key thing that we always talk about in AOD is just making sure your main character is passionate, because their passion will drive your edit forward. They're going to be doing new stuff every day. They're going to want to talk about it. You're just going to see it on camera. And I think you just, with some natural instinct there, Nolan, were able to really point out that Aaron is one of the more passionate people in this community. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have to always be outspoken, but you saw his drive, and I think that's for anyone watching this. If you're filming a group of people, find that one person that has that either silent drive or the most evident passion, and that's who's gonna you're gonna be able to anchor your film around.
Yeah, he definitely had like the voice. Like I can like after talking with him and hearing his passion for everything, it was like it's got to be him, and everybody was pretty on board with it. So
for sure.
Nolan, just a couple more here. One, would you have done this if you knew how long it would have taken? How much work was required?
Would you have finished it if we didn't give you that money?
Yes. Yes, I definitely, like, to answer that question, yes, I 100% would have finished this. It was already in the works. But
awesome.
I've made a number of like just traditional skateboard films, and those take, they can take like big ones, like if you're talking like girl skateboards and Lakai, they take 8 years, 6 years, and my films, they've taken 2 years, 2.5 years. So it's nothing new to me, like gathering footage for that amount of time and then making something at the end. And just because I like from making those, it would kind of like pave the way of like it's worth finishing, especially for that live premiere and seeing people's reaction, and also hearing people's like positive feedback from it. So like there's no, like I knew that like I'm not trying to like make an income off of it. I just wanted to make sure it was something that people could watch and really enjoy, because that's what was most important to me. So, and like just show and be enlightened of what's going on down there. So
awesome. Well, last question. I got to bring it back to AOD. Just curious, taking the course, was there anything that helped you make this? Anything for other filmmakers, something that you either took away from the course or from the community, or something that acted as a bit of a guiding principle or light through your filmmaking process?
Yeah. So, I mean, you were saying it, like Mark said it earlier, for one, in terms of like the cinematography level of things, like holding shots, holding things, letting things happen, not pulling away because you got one quick thing, like let them ride out, let them finish what they're saying. They might say something else. Like interviews, like being engaged with the people, and there was like a behind the scenes thing that was posted recently that I was like, when you're having an interview with somebody, maintaining eye contact, like actually having the conversation, not drifting off into space. A lot of like your guys is like storytelling and like different avenues of how to do, like what direction you want the type of documentary it's going to be. So it's like, that's nice to like, okay, I'm going to fit this criteria, or as best I can try to fit this criteria and things like that.
Be intentional. Yeah, be intentional. Yeah.
Yeah, and also one of the things was just seeing you guys make so many docs. I'm like, okay, they're doing it constantly. It's like they're finishing them. I can finish this. Like that is motivating as well. So
awesome, man.
Well, glad to help in any small way, and love having you part of the AOD community, and look forward to seeing more of what you're putting out there. You guys can, if you're just joining this live, you can go watch the film. It's on our AOD Films page. We're going to be posting more films this year. Let's give Nolan another big congrats on that.
Thanks, Aaron, and everyone else as well for letting us come along on that ride.
Exactly. And your co-director as well. That was awesome having just getting to see you work with someone on the film like that. And if you're interested in completing your first documentary, you can join Art of Documentary September 8th. That's coming up in about a month and a half. Just go to theartofdocumentary.com. You can join our waitlist. We're a course of 5. Well, we have 5 different courses, over 250 videos, a community. People like Nolan are part of it. They're in the Facebook group. You get to watch each other's films. There's small groups to work on each other's films. All sorts of stuff. Any part of your journey, we have it for you in the Art of Documentary. We love seeing people complete their first films or their second film, or just that story that they're very passionate about. So again, thank you, Nolan, for being a part of this. Thank you, everyone,
guys.
for taking the time on Sunday to come watch this film, share the film, and yeah, we'll see you on the next AOD premiere.
Cool. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed.
See you, Nolan.
Thank you.
Of course, still in Riverside.